Okay, so welcome back to another one. Now, I know that last time when I was doing this, I might have just ummed and ahed and just clicked away and not actually spoken too much, but I'm going to try and do a bit better this time with a little bit more description of what I'm doing. So, heading right back into it, what I'm doing is I'm going to be modifying a Daqin Imperial style village into the ruined state. So, starting with this, for example, being the central keep, and then what I've done is I've duplicated that map, and then I've put the ruin version of the keep into. That's generally I start with the keep as the central. Then, as you might have seen, the next thing I do is I go through and I paste through ruined 20 by 20s. So all the 20 by 20s, I just generally go through and I paste over the top of it with the ruins. And then once I've done that, I may as well do some of the ones beside it, just so that while it's on the screen, you can see that that's the sub-level over to the right. I'll get along to that, but in the meantime, because it's there, I may as well do it while it's on the screen. So, moving through and simply pasting over the top. Now, once I've done that, what I generally do is I then grab the rubble. Like there's groups of, I generally go for groups of 10 by 10, and I paste those over the top of the remaining well, all the all the green, which represents people's little plots of like veggies and stuff like that. So I'm just going through now and doing all the 10 by 10s. So as I see a 10 by 10, I just click in and duplicate also and just paste over the top. So just moving around the map, doing that wherever they're found. Now the gaps and like where there were doors, we're talking 1,000 years of deterioration. So the doors are gone, and maybe a bit of rubble has fallen into the doorway, and that's how I'm justifying the removal of the door. Is simply a matter of removing that rubble and maybe putting a new door. Anyway, so I think that I've now got them all. I'm just going to zoom out and have a look, and it does not look like there are any that remain that haven't been done. So just going to have one more look. Okay, it looks fine to me. Alright, so now as I was saying, I'm going to now go to another Excel that I've got set up on my other screen, and I'm going to grab, well, I'll start with a 20 by 20 section of this rubble. Clicking back onto the, well, okay, clicking back onto this, for example, 39, a wooden building. So I'm just going to paste over the top of that. Now I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to paste across that entire section. In some cases it doesn't work like that, so I can't do it in that way, but in this case it seems to be fine. Anyway, so just moving along and copying and then pasting. So now I'm selecting a 10 by 10, and I'm just going to do that there, and then that there. So that's the gatehouse. Now there's these ones here. I'm going to copy an 8 by 3, for example, and I'm going to paste an 8 by 3, and I'm going to turn off the sound so that it doesn't annoy anybody. 6 by 10 and paste into there. So now what I've got is this gatehouse area, and I can now duplicate and paste over the top of that, and that's that. Now up here I'm going to have to copy an 8 by 2, and then I'm going to paste the 8 by 2 over the top of these gates. Actually, no. I'm going to paste an 8 by 2 border over this one. And that's that. Okay, so just checking that there's no more of those. And then I'm going to continue. So first things first, I'm going to again grab a 20 by 20. And then I'm going to go through and paste over the top of any of these areas. Now, you can see that's a 20 by 30, but didn't want to do it that time. Anyway, working away and just pasting. Just getting the most done in as fast as possible way. So it is time consuming, but as I've mentioned before, it's not going to have to be done a second time. Okay, now that's a bit of a problem. We'll try that, and it worked this time. So sometimes it does allow you to do multiple cells, and sometimes it doesn't. So, alright, I'm going to go and copy a 10 by 10 now, and then I'm just going to finish up all the other ones. And in some cases you can do that massive block. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and I don't quite know why it doesn't do it all the time, but that's okay. You don't have to know the answers to all these questions. I know that there's lots of things that experienced Excel operators will probably be cringing at some of the methods that I'm using, thinking, oh, if only he used this method or this method. The main thing is that I'm just getting the job done with my knowledge what I do know, rather than worrying about what I could do differently. Anyway, moving along, so you can see that it's starting to fill up with this random rubble. Alright. So this is just like debris a debris layer. It doesn't have to have any detail to it. And they kind of duplicate. You can see that there's a bit of a duplicated pattern, but really it doesn't matter. It's not critical to anything. It's just aesthetic. I just prefer to have at least something rather than just white. I mean, again, it's just a matter of time. I could make put isolated pieces of stone into in the middle of nowhere. Still considering doing that. Because I mean, yes, there's the idea of some of the stonework crumbling, during the trauma of the aftermath of the War of the Gods, the cataclysmic events and things like this. For them to shatter stone is what I'm looking for. Is that there's cracks that have developed in some of the stonework that need to be repaired and replaced to make so that they can be, people can live in them even if they're not completely rebuilt. But that's another thing. If I do introduce the title deeds to the equation, so have people having title deeds to houses, individual buildings and things like this, that they, as the landlord, will be responsible for repairing them. So if you declare yourself and want to declare yourself as the possessor and owner of a dwelling or a fortification or something like that, then you become responsible for the repairs. So yes, it's an investment. That finding a title deed to a village or a hamlet or a farm is one thing, but before you can cash in on that and receive income, you've got a bit of work to be done before that can happen. So, and the other thing is that taking a location back from undead control doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're not going to receive an income from it, or it's not a guaranteed income. Just by possessing it doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't come along and with the title deed and then take what you've spent a massive amount of resources on repairing away from you. So anyway, so that's done. Now the central, so this is now sub-level 1. Now I'm not going to waste time showing the pain which is to put the rubble into the walls. I realise that that takes a lot of time that I don't really want to spend during these live streams showing. It's just a horrible thing, and once it's done, but I don't really want to show that kind of boring work. So I'm just going to proceed with doing the main building modifications in the sub-levels, sub-level 1, sub-level 2, and then the crypt level. When I say crypt level, I'm making it so that sub-level 2 has the tunnel networks, the sewage system kind of thing. So you can see sub-level 1 and over here sub-level 2. So just going back to here and zooming in, and then I'm going to do all the 10 by 10 foot sub-levels. So I'm going to go to view and go normal, and just remove the page numbering, which is sometimes annoying in the background. Okay, so we've got a few more. I think that's all of them, so I'm just going to zoom out, make sure that there are none of them are left over. Okay, so that's that. Alright, so now, oh sorry, not that's that. I've still got the central keep, underground level of it. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste from another document. This one is I'm taking from Village 1. And pasting. Although that looks larger. So I'm going to have to undo that, and you'll see how long it takes to undo some of these errors. It certainly does take a bit of time to undo, and you can see that it strips away the calculations, it strips away the comments, then finally strips away the size. Seems to be a bit. Okay, I'll just keep working on it. It seems to be that there's a discrepancy in the size. So let's just check it. So this is an 82 and by 82. So at some point, there's an error in the way that I've calculated the sizes and things like that. There's not much that I can do about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's a minor thing, but the main thing is that I need to transfer that across through all the layers. So obviously on the sub level here, it seems to have, on the non-ruined one, it looks like I've incorporated that. So I don't think it's a critical mistake to basically have this difference in the sizes, because it looks like it's passed on throughout, and I've basically picked up on it again. It's sub level 2. Not sure if any of that makes any sense whatsoever to anyone who's watching, but anyway, that's that. So again, starting from the 20 by 20s, and I'm going to zoom in a bit more so that you can see a bit more detail. So starting with the 20 by 20s, I'm going to paste through the ruin version of it. Now where there's gaps in the walls, it will represent there being maybe some light rubble that's falling in. So that's a bit structurally unstable. Cave-ins and things like this. I'm not going to factor any of that stuff into the geopolitical. The main thing is that when you are taking a town, village, hamlet or farm back from undead control, that you can clear the above ground, and then you'll have all the below ground that you're also going to have to deal with. So I was considering bolt holes, making it so that that there were bolt holes that were a known bolt hole to allow evacuation and things like this, so that if there were I don't know, to me it doesn't make any sense for there to have been official bolt holes put in during the construction. Yes, the whole point was to show off imperial majesty and might with largesse by commanding the high priests to go to this back and beyond province and show off and build these structures in the imperial image. I don't think they would have considered a bolt hole to have been something to celebrate. I mean, to have a bolt hole is recognizing that you're overrun, recognizing that you are in a bit of a state, and that you need to have an escape route. So I don't think that they're going to. I don't think they're going to have agreed to do such a thing, of basically investing the time and energy in building all these structures, and yet to have a bolt hole that can only be used as a last resort. So, but having said that, I think I talked about the potential for having secret passageways and things like this, that during the Civil War, that it may be that there, I don't know, for example, okay, let's just say that I'm just going to find I'm going to create this one here, for example, go into it, edit the note, and say okay, so Samurai resistance group hideout, and then I'm going to put in, I don't know, say for example, there's a 1 foot by 1 foot tunnel. Now that might not seem big, but if I make it so it's a tight squeeze to get in, it might be that I duplicate that and make it so that the tunnel itself starts off as being 2 foot by 2 foot. So that means that this one here and this one here have both got the same comment, and then I could feasibly make it so that the tunnel, they've cut in lines into this area here, and then they've tunneled out a 10 foot by 10 foot inside. So there's plenty of space for this kind of activity to go on. Not necessarily a ruin. The main thing about ruin is that it's undead infested, so I don't particularly want to make it so that I've lost it. I did put in here that new comment. The comment about, oh there we go, Samurai resistance. So just going to paste over the top of that so that that's now restored back to what it was. So anyway, where was I? So I've just done the sewers. So what I'm going to do now is just effectively zoom out a little bit and I'm going to cut and paste, or copy and paste, ruin corridors into this. Alright, so you can see that there's this crossover in the passageway that is now has that's breached. So now, I will go back in and do a bit of a post on that to clean it up. So, looking off, I'm looking off screen or looking to the side where I've got the other file open. Okay. So, as I said, I can deal with that in a bit of a post-production. When I say post-production, I mean I can do it live, but I'm going to just put them out there first, so that alright, well, here's for example. So I've just copied one and I'm basically pasting it in, and if you'll see that it's now taken out that, but it's also put another one in. So when I say another one, I mean I should describe it a bit more adequately than that. Where it joins up, when I've pasted it, you can see that it's now blocked that off, and at the end here it's blocked that off, but I can simply copy that, paste that, and undo that that problem there. Same thing with this, copy, paste, and then in terms of just getting it out there, I'm just going to keep moving along and copy and paste regardless. So once I've done all that, I'll come back and go through it and clean it up. Now that's a bit extreme, so I'm going to undo that. I'm wanting to make it so that every one of these 10 by 10s is not readily accessible. You have to remove rubble, material, whatever, in order to get in there. But if I make it so the corridor goes through, then it means that people can progress without actually cleaning rubble away. So I'm not sure if any of that made sense. So there's lots of these little things in my mind that I know what I'm talking about, but then trying to explain it. So maybe that's the thing about having people call in and I answer their questions as I progress, that maybe that will help. So again, I'm doing a fair bit of duplication as I go. So it's not perfect, but gets the job done. I mean, having them as being personalized and things like that, well, in an ideal world, yes, it's important, just for to make them more personal, make it so that it does show that I've put a bit of forethought into each of them. But let's just get the job done. Now you can see that one there, I've copied over it. I've copied over that obstruction. So now I'll put the obstruction back in, and just to finally tidy up the corner with a bit more of that rubble appearance. I mean, it is just a small thing, but it's a big thing. It's just a matter of making it so that it looks good. I mean, you can tell the difference between that white background and having the rubble background. It does look nicer. And we need to undo that. Oops. No, that didn't do it. Okay. Okay, so that's that one there. Now, some of these have got long sections without any breaches, so I'm just going to occasionally break that up. Alright, so moving along. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So you can see that now it's starting to come together. And I'm just simply duplicating into those . As we go. Okay, alright, so that's that. Moving up. Now, yeah, it is a bit time consuming, but the results I'm pretty happy with. It certainly just changes the appearance, and it also shows that conquered territory needs to be rebuilt. So that's great. Moving on. Oops. So as you can see, I sort of breached there. So as I showed before, I can just simply do that and undo what I just did. So everything I'm doing is just sometimes a bit of trial and error. So I'm just going to paste that entire section there, like so. Okay, now I've noticed that there's some fairly wide breaches. I'm trying to avoid like the really wide breaches if I can help it. Oops. Okay, so that's that. Now going down, making sure that I've cleaned up all the... Well, look, sometimes I can just leave some of these things alone. There's a certain... I'm not sure what point it is where I think I'm being too pedantic about certain things. It does happen at some point where I realise that I'm taking things a bit to the extreme, and you know, even by my own standards of extreme. Anyway, that's looking alright. Looking for the really wide breaches that I was talking about, and I can't see them. It looks pretty randomly messed up. I mean, you can see certain things like this section here. I'll zoom in on it, where you've got these blocks that are not quite random, so I can copy and paste something new, break up this is, again, it's just aesthetics, but as I said, I'm trying to do this once and not a second time, not a third time. Anyway, so that's that, as you can see. Now over here, we've got the oops, sorry, the rebuilt one. Now what I can do is, there's a couple of different ways I can do it. One is I've basically done like a copy of that entire section and then I'll put it in, but in this case I'm just going to do it manually. If I can find the edge. Right, so just going to do it manually and paste in alright, and then I'm going to copy that and paste it over here, and then I'm gonna have a think about something. What I've got is vault layer is a 2-layer thing. So what I realized is that I have to put copy and then paste the vault layer here, and also the crypt level is also sub 1 sorry, sub 2 and sub 3. All right, I think we're done. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see the counter goes flying up because there is a lot of content. Anyway, so that is now complete. So as you can see, ruin on the ground floor or ground level, ruin on the sub 1. The basements of these are not structural stone houses, but I've put in their cellars. Their cellars aren't connected to the sewer networks and the underground network on sub 2. So back on the sub 2, it's now been put into a ruined state, and then sub 3 is just, as I said, the crypt and the granary and things like this. So that's that. Look, I said that I was going to show off the grid form that I've done, so I'm just going to do that now. Alright, overview. Alright, I think this is the one. Okay, so just going to open up the overview. So the overview file is where I've been putting building the geopolitical card layout. So alright, here it is. Okay. Right, so where are we? Geopolitical places. Alright, this one. Okay. So I said I was going to show this off. Now I'm going to. So as I said previously, I've got a grid and the number system, 1 right across to 26, and then progressive down left to right and down the page. Now what I've done is I've put all the geopolitical players in this grid in this form. So I've left the calculations in because this is inside Microsoft Excel, and so my intention is to, well, for example, I'll zoom into this. My intention is to, I'll go over here actually, and as you can see, well, you can't really see, I'm going to have to zoom in some more. Okay, that's better. Alright, so now you should be able to see at least 4 of these geopolitical players on the screen. So I'm just going to F9, and as you can see, it's recalculating things like the spread of skills that they have. It's changing the serial number that they've been given and things like this. So the intention is that once I've created this in Excel, instead of populating the group leader and entourage in a separate sheet, what I can do is I can create this one play area, and if this was a table that you could have people sitting around the table, and they could get up and sit down again at the table and take on any of these geopolitical players to progress their moves. So I am still thinking about how this can play out live as a free-form event, but I'm also making it so that I can use it during a live stream version of the geopolitical tournament, or processing the moves in the actual live environment with any of the baronies that are in operation, then I can do the same thing. So yeah, so this map right now, this, I can copy this entire thing and paste it into paint.net, and this grey area in the center is where the province map can fit, so that I could feasibly have this as like a layer on top of the map, and then as people want to move, take a geopolitical character and move it, it can be moved. It might be that, for example, if this Guild Grandmaster here wants to move, say this is, if this was Barony A, and they want to take their, if they want to take their Guild Grandmaster over to Province B, that I cut it from here and I paste it into B. So when it's like a movement order, so they're moving from one province to another, and by removing it from the board, so anything that's on this board is in play on this board. So it may be that, but the location needs to remain the same, if that makes sense. So this particular, this is the Guild Grandmaster and companions of the Ballistics Guild. So this location just below 90, what is it? 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114. Yeah, 114. So that's one way of doing it. You might see up in the top left-hand corner, it has Tango Oscar 154. Now that might be a better way to do it than the grid. So having these numbers here is possibly confusing compared to the actual number that's given. So up here, for example, 90 is Tango Oscar 116. So if it's always top, when people give a grid and they say, well, they want to move the forces, they want to combine 4 different groups into a single geopolitical party, that they could say, I want Tango Oscar 116, I also want Alpha Golf Echo 268, and I also want Alpha Delta Alpha 78, and I want Charlie Foxtrot 344. So that is more precise, but I think that being able to refer to it in terms of its proximity. So someone might say, yeah, I want the group beneath 84, or beneath 95, or above 143. So that might be a faster way of doing it. I could experiment with having an XY coordinate on the side, but I think this is going to be the path of least resistance, is just for people to use this format. The other thing is that I could make this opaque over the top of the map. So if somebody says, I want to move these forces to 185, well, in that case I go, 185. So they want to plot a move that takes them from here over to here, for example. So they could plot. There's lots of different ways we can do it, but the main thing is that I just wanted to show this as the final part of this live stream. But there is one final thing that I need to talk about, which is that I need to look at creating a series of counters. For example, the counter for the Samrajay Lord, for example. I'm just going to try and do it live. I'm not sure if I'm going to be successful or not, but I'll try and find. Okay, so I'm just going to go back. And I don't really want to open this up for everyone to see right now, but I'm opening up the. Okay, there we go. I'm going to move it over here. I don't know if you can't read these things. So anyway, so say for example the Bellini. Okay, so that could be the token for the Samurai Lord. This could be the token for okay, where are we? There we go. This could be the token for Chakra Pop. Oops. Alright, for some reason the size of this one's smaller. So anyone who sees it twos might not like the fact that it's so small. But anyway, it doesn't have to be as big as the other ones, and I can zoom it in. I can make it smaller. And finally, the Daqin. Okay, so Daqin. So these are little tokens that, for example, my intention was that as I plot the moves, that I take the sigil, the coat of arms, whatever. So this is the this is not Daqin. This is the Gila, earldom of Gila. So when I say about imperial factions and things like that, Gila is part of the Daqin Empire, and up here that's the Bellini. That's the Bellini coat of arms. Now that's Bellini is part of the Samurai Empire. Over here we've got Jazur Abu Minkar. Now that's the earldom that is part of the Caesar II Empire. And then, whoops, what have I done there? Oh, right. And then we've got this one here, which is the Solomon earldom, which is part of the Chakra Empire. So the coat of arms for the different imperial factions, I will now grab that and do the same thing. So I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but anyway, we will give it a go. So now this one here is different from, oops, sorry. Okay, this one here is the Chakra Pop Imperial shield device. So I can make that bigger. Okay, so that one there is for the Chakra Pop Imperium. Then we'll go across and drop the Tang Empire one. go up here and drop the Samurai one. And finally, Caesar 2, 1. Now, just to clarify yet again, okay, so the Imperial factions are the Samurai Imperium, the Caesar 2 Imperium, the Chakrapop Imperium, and finally the Daqin Imperium. Now, within those empires, there are kingdoms and then earldoms. So, for example, the Samurai, the earldom of Velini is using this sigil, which has the imperial. Looks like a. I think it's a phoenix inside. So the phoenix is the imperial emblem. Then I believe the way I did it was that the imperial colors are red and with gold outline, and then I've got the kingdom represented by, well, in this case I believe that I did the blue. So the kingdom that's part of the Samurai Empire is the Vltava, the Kingdom of Vltava, or in this case the Grand Duchy of Vltava. And then we've got Velini, which is the earldom that's part of the Grand Duchy of Vltava, and its colours are green. So to make up this like tricolour or tri-influence coat of arms. So anyway, all of that is covered in the MASH documents that I put together. So if anyone wants to create their own empire, kingdom, earldom, then they won't be eligible to become lords and things like that, because the Velini peace accords only allow people who or they only allow the four competing empires to be involved in this dispute. So no, it might be that yes, you can create a character, a MASH, and you can create characters in that MASH, but they will not be included in this geopolitical contest to determine the future of Velini. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm waffling now, but anyway, now that I've created the now I've done that. Okay. Anyway, it's looking alright. So that might be confusing for some people. So I'm not sure if I explain myself very well. As I said, there's things that are in my head that I sometimes struggle with explaining. But anyway, that's the board overview. I'm going to continue working on that. I'm going to also modify the loot distribution to a similar sheet so that it's a one-stop shop, for example, that everything's in the same one. Anyway, thank you for joining us again, and hopefully we're on track for the 1st of the 7th to go live and